We begin here in Washington on a meeting between neighbors. U.S. President Donald Trump is hosting Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. My colleague, CGTN's Owen Fairclough, joins me in the studio. Owen, Trudeau's relationship with former President Barack Obama quite different than what we will probably see with Donald Trump.
Absolutely. I say, Donald Trump spent the weekend playing golf with Japan's Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. This has the feel of a much more routine, down-to-earth Monday meeting. These are two men with very, very different worldviews. Justin Trudeau of Canada, a committed free trader. And that's really the big question in this meeting, Asier. What are Donald Trump and Justin Trudeau going to do about the North America Free Trade Agreement, an enormous free trade zone that covers Mexico, the US and Canada? We know that Donald Trump has said repeatedly he wants to renegotiate this deal. This is difficult for Canada, a country that sends 3/4 of all the goods it makes every year across the border to the US. It's only behind China with the US in terms of the amount of trade that these two countries do. So Trudeau really does need answers about which direction Donald Trump is going to take this alliance as well. Immigration as well, very different positions. Justin Trudeau, you might remember, said we welcome immigrants. And in fact, China's had a record number of immigrants in the last year or so, swelled Canada's population more than any other leading industrialized nation. Donald Trump, quite the opposite. He literally wants to build a wall, we know that, to stop immigrants coming from Canada. So again, there are points of divergence there. One perhaps point that they can agree on, they had a women's summit in the White House earlier this Monday, the two men talking about how to improve women's prospects, not just in business, but in politics. But again, Justin Trudeau, very different. Half his cabinet is made up of women. Donald Trump's much less than that, around 16%, right?
I got to ask you also about NATO. We have heard how Donald Trump feels about NATO in the past. He's in fact called it oblivious or irrelevant or something to that effect. Obsolete is the word I was looking for. So talk to us a little bit about their views on NATO.
Again, Canada is a committed member of NATO. In fact, it's Canadian forces that are being sent to NATO's Eastern Front, that's in the Baltic states, to try and really contain Russia. This is with countries like the UK and Germany. It's true, the US is also committed. It's got troops stationed in Poland. The problem is Donald Trump wants a very different relationship with Russia to those other NATO members. One Canadian lawmaker, interesting to note, RCA, suggested that if the US scales back its commitments to NATO in terms of financing, maybe Canada would have to step up. But we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars in difference. Although Donald Trump will say that countries like Canada should be committing 2% of their GDP to NATO, Canada currently contributes at half that amount. So Donald Trump would say that Canada does actually need to step up, certainly in terms of its financial commitments.
As we wait for these two leaders to hold a joint news conference, I want to go back to NAFTA. Donald Trump has said he wants to renegotiate NAFTA. What will that mean for a country like Canada if it is in fact renegotiated?
Well, it's interesting to know one Canadian lawmaker before this summit effectively said that if NAFTA is renegotiated, maybe Mexico is on its own, and there's a sense perhaps in Canada that all this renegotiation for NAFTA applies unfortunately to Mexico rather less than Canada. The detail, as is often the case, unfortunately, with Donald Trump, is a little bit elusive at the moment. We're talking, of course, with lots of other countries around the world about taxes, tariffs being imposed upon goods. But again, when you've got so much of your economy sending goods to the US, that would be a very heavy price for Canada to pay should new tariffs be imposed on Canadian goods.
And at that point, you have problems with the northern neighbor and problems with the southern neighbor.